Hey guys, let's talk about last night's episode of Person of Interest, and it was another great episode. It was pretty much the aftermath of Carter's death and showing how all of the different members of this team are dealing with her passing. And of course, Reese is hit the hardest, and he's literally running around with a bullet wound, and his sole goal is to find Simmons and take Simmons down. And how are they going to find him? Well, they have to find Quinn, because Quinn is the only one who knows what Simmons' exit strategy. And of course, the team finds out where Quinn is being held, and Reese, who's pretty much been on his own this entire episode, finds him first. And he says to him, listen, you have 3 minutes to tell me where Simmons is, or I'm going to kill you. And just as the time is up, he's standing there holding the gun with blood dripping all over him. And Finch comes in and he pretty much tells him this isn't what Carter wanted. She did this all so that we could put these guys away, not so that you could kill him. If you kill him, you're doing this for yourself and not for her. And, it's pretty dramatic. It's pretty emotional. He collapses to the ground. And he really pulls the trigger anyway, but there's no bullets left in the gun. But, it just showed that at the end of the day, Reese was going to do whatever he needed to do to get rid of Quinn. And when they find out where Simmons is, Fosco, of all people, goes and tracks him down. They get into this crazy fight where they're both pummeling each other. And at the end, Simmons is like, do it. Do what you want to do. I knew you were a bad guy all along. Kill me. And he's like, I'm not going to kill you because Carter made me better. He's like, I was once a bad guy. And, Carter made me see the error of my ways, pretty much. And she made me become a better person. And I'm not going to do what you want me to do. I'm not going to do that and throw everything that I've worked on away. And he arrests him and he takes him into custody. And ultimately, when he's in the hospital bed recovering from his wounds, who shows up? Elias. And Elias is pretty much sitting in a dark corner, and he tells him, he's like, we are criminals and we do things that other people would dare not do. And he tells him that, I told Carter I could have killed you a long time ago, but Carter didn't want me to do that. And he says, I know Carter didn't really like me, but I liked her. And because of that, I'm going to take you out. And out comes one of his minions, and he strangles him, and then there goes Simmons. So, it was a really powerful episode just in terms of how, everybody was dealing with this. And we got some really great flashbacks from all of the characters. So with Finch, somebody was like a therapist was talking to him and telling him, grief is a natural state that one goes through and you shouldn't feel guilty. And he was like, well, what if your guilt is warranted? And what if it is because of you that somebody has died? So, obviously this flashback is showing us that Reese feels that he is guilty and he's the reason why Carter's dead. And then we get a flashback of Shaw. And Shaw's flashback is she was once like an up-and-coming doctor, but she was so disconnected from her patients. And, doctors all around her didn't know whether she cared whether her patients lived or died. And apparently, like, she went to tell a family that one of their patients had died, and she was eating like a granola bar. And of course, she's not thinking any big deal about it, but that's what they're going to remember. And he was just trying to say that you are so disconnected from emotion, it's almost like you're a sociopath kind of. And without really even saying that, that's pretty much what he's kind of hinting at. And she obviously doesn't become a doctor, and she's really the same way to this day. She's just so detached from everything. Like, it's like we know that there's some feeling in there, but it's like she just can't express it. And I felt that like in the previous episode when Carter had asked her for all these guns and she just gave them to her, and it's sort of like, oh, why do you need all these guns? It's like, I'm not going to ask you. You asked me for them, I gave it to you, and that's my job. So there you go. And so that's sort of what I pulled from that conversation. And then we had Fosco's flashback, which was very interesting because we all know that he was part of HR. And the only reason they could get him in there was because he was really a crooked cop. And when he's being talked to by his therapist, pretty much he admits to the fact that he shot a man who was was a bad guy, but he took the law into his own hands, and he shot him and he killed him, and he felt good about it afterwards. And you can see the growth between then and now, and especially when you see that end scene and you see that Fosco ultimately had the option to kill Simmons, but he didn't go down that path again, and that he's really a changed man. So that was kind of interesting. But the most interesting was Reese. And Reese, of course, we all know that he was like a black ops operative, and you know, when Finch found him, and this shows like an interrogation that he's having with the man who's asking him, like, if you were sent to kill somebody and they were a terrorist and he was standing next to his son, could you put a bullet in his head? Would you feel empathy for him? Would you be able to actually pull the trigger? And he's basically saying, if that was my mission, I would. And he's like, well, you know, you can't have any second doubts in your mind. Like, if this is something that would happen, how would you react? And then he says, well, you know what? I'm actually here on my own mission, and that is to find out who's been selling secrets. And boom, he pops two into the guy who's interrogating him because he was the one doing it. So, you know, it ultimately showed that Reese could be a cold-hearted killer and he would have no regrets about it, and he just gets up and he walks away. But you can see how much he has changed, and I guess it's all sort of like, you know, they're reflecting on what Carter brought to their relationship and how she affected all of them. And, you know, because as we know, going forwards in this season, like in this series, he doesn't really kill people anymore. He really just shoots them in the knees or shoots them in the shoulder. He somehow wounds them and they're not dead. But, you know, we saw some backstory on how Reese was once before. So again, it was another really good episode, and we got Root involved in this one because they were, you know, Reese was pretty much on death's door and they needed to get to him quickly. And so Root was let out of her cage, and she had this really great scene where she's pretty much, you know, telling Fusco all this stuff about him, that he's got like 85 cents in his pocket, he's got this picture back at home, and what do you think that, do you know how you got your name, and you got Lionel because of that picture. And it was just like, you know, basically saying, listen, I serve a higher power here. I'm here to help you guys, and I'm not here to run away or, you know, turn the guns on you guys. So it was kind of cool, and obviously she's going to become more intertwined with this Scooby Gang, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. But another good episode, and, you know, a good way to close out the entire Carter storyline. You know, it was kind of sad seeing the funeral and her son and her ex there and everything, and just, you know, seeing everybody deal with the fallout. So great episode. I'm looking forward to Person of Interest when it comes back after the break, and I'll see you guys then. All right, guys, bye.